Have you ever wondered why guilt feels heavier after someone you love is gone? Here's what no one tells you about healing from grief, from loss. There's a lot of emotions that come through, and some of those emotions are going to be regret and grief, and maybe even some shame, sadness, disappointment. And every loss that we have, even if it's someone that we love, is going to be different. And in there can be guilt as well. Maybe we felt more grief when we lost someone else than we do on the loss we're going through this time, or vice versa. So I'll backstory you a bit. 9 days ago, I lost my mother. It was quick, but in truth, it was long. My mom had just been going through getting the diagnosis for dementia. And over the last couple of years, she'd become more fragile, smaller, more scared. And in my own healing journey, I had been working on letting go. I had, in some ways, a wonderful childhood, and in other ways, not so much. And the person that I grew up with changed over the last few years. And so I needed to come to terms with, first off, that the person who was really one of my biggest bullies ended up being this tiny person that needed to be taken care of and supported. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to this journey because I was able to do that. I was able to make sure I told her that I loved her when I got off the phone. I was able to not lose my cool and get mad at her and snap at her. I was able to just be present with her without looking through the lens of the child that had been hurt. And the truth is, all of our experiences that we have now, all of our beliefs, all of our programming begins before the age of 8. So whether that's coming through our parents or through society or through our environment, we're going to be moving through in these healing journeys pieces that are linked to our parents or to our early childhood upbringing, whoever that is that raised you. And our perception as a child of those experiences. Now, my mom's and my relationship in many ways was volatile and incredibly dysfunctional. I didn't even realize that the abuse was happening until I was, well, really into my 30s and in my early 40s. And it was only in the last few weeks after my mom took a bad fall and she had a brain bleed and she never recovered. She never really woke up again. And in those 9 days that I was going through it with her, coming up and down the island and sitting with her at the hospital and just chatting, I'd have all these crazy memories that started coming up that I hadn't thought of in years. And some of them were brutal. And because of the journey that I've been on, I was able to ask a question over and over again. What happened to you? What happened to you that was how you treated your only child? That was how you treated your daughter? What happened to you that you missed out on a beautiful relationship? What happened to you that you didn't allow yourself that level of love, to be loved and to love at that degree? There's a book that was put out by Oprah Winfrey and another psychiatrist, blanking on his name right now, but it was called What Happened to You? And that book was incredible on my healing journey. I'm a book lover. I download books, I listen to them constantly, and they have been my main therapy, especially over the last 15 years. And so going through this work over these last couple of weeks with my mom has in some ways been really cathartic. But it's also brought in a lot of dynamics. Here's this regret and guilt coming up. And I realized that the emotions were being, I guess, misunderstood or misspoken of. So yes, I have regret. I have regret over maybe not letting go of things sooner. You know, she'd been reaching out for the last several years, and it took me a while to be able to accept that hand, to step into a different role and let go. And I'm not going to beat up on myself for that, because it took me the amount of time that it needed to. If it was supposed to have been sooner, it would have been. It's just the truth of it. We need to love what is. And here's where we are. Here's where everything is at. The guilt is an interesting one because I realized the guilt that I thought I was feeling was actually an emotion of distress. See, guilt is an emotion that we feel when we're out of alignment with ourself, with our soul, our spirit. And that's what our values are about. Our values help us, they're like goalposts that help us be in alignment with ourself, with our authenticity. And it's when we're out of alignment with those values that we feel guilt. That's the actual emotion. We're out of alignment with our values. And so for myself, one of my greatest values is loyalty. And that value is really difficult for me because I actually tried to get rid of it. I decided that it was this value of loyalty that had caused so much of my own trauma, my own poor behaviors, my own poor choices, staying in relationships long after I should have left. I stayed in a dysfunctional, abusive marriage because my first husband threatened to kill my mother. If I had told anybody, he'd go after her. And so to protect her, I was 18 when I got married, I told nobody. And for 2 years, I was severely abused. Physical, mental, emotional, sexual. Until finally I escaped, and in the end had to go into hiding. Loyalty. It wasn't loyalty to him, it was loyalty to her. I stayed in a dysfunctional relationship with my mom for years, not realizing that that was where the chipping away at my confidence had come from, starting at a very, very young age. It kept me staying in jobs long after I should have left, not because the jobs were dysfunctional. I had some amazing, amazing employers that were incredibly supportive, mentors really, that helped me on my healing journey, helped me believe in myself and gain that confidence. But when I'd outgrown them, I stayed out of loyalty. And it took one of my mentors, my last boss actually, to explain to me that loyalty wasn't staying in a job after I'd outgrown it. It was how we leave, how we speak about the company, how we speak about ourselves. And so loyalty is really misunderstood. We often stay in places that we shouldn't long after because of loyalty. And that's why it's important for us to know all of our values. Because once I started to look at my values and I realized that in there was also respect, compassion, courage. And originally I thought it was freedom, but my strongest value is actually sovereignty. And it was the value of sovereignty that has been my guidepost to helping me really let go of old hurts, old traumas, old wounds. It doesn't mean forgetting them. It means that we still have that experience, but without the emotional trigger so that it can develop into wisdom. And so once I understood that sovereignty to make my choices to be governed by myself, by my soul, rather than my past traumas and dramas, allowed me to move on from these things. So when I'm out of alignment with my values, that's when I feel guilt. So I thought I was feeling guilt because I was out of alignment with loyalty. And it was because I wasn't in alignment with things like respect, as in self-respect, compassion, as in self-compassion, courage to stand and say no rather than saying yes, to make other people happy, or of a fear of losing someone's love, someone's respect. And so that's really what guilt is. Distress is the emotion that most of us feel when we hold a boundary. When I was going through this with my mom, there was times I would feel guilty for leaving the hospital. Now, part of it was because the idea of her dying alone is something that most of us never want to do. And I had an amazing nurse at the hospital that sat and talked to me about these emotions that come up for us and how important it is that we take care of ourselves, that we have compassion when we need to take a break. And so each time I would leave the hospital, I would kiss my mom and tell her I loved her, tell her it was okay, that we were okay, and it was okay. Our contracts were done. And I didn't need to forgive her because there was nothing to forgive. My mom was just being herself. And the truth is, if we don't heal our own wounds, we perpetuate them onto all of the people around us, whether we mean to or not. And so that's all I experienced, was a mom perpetuating her pain, and I, as a child, was there. And once I was able to get out, I didn't leave for a long time, but once I did, and I realized what was going on, I made space for myself. Now, the problem is, as we go through these things, people who knew a different version of my mother and a different story have felt maybe a right to passively, aggressively make snide little comments and remarks, make it clear that they're dissatisfied in how I have handled it, or the speed I've been working at, or the things I've chosen to do. In the end, I sat with my mom before she fell, and we talked a lot about her sovereignty, her right to make a choice. She didn't want to leave her home. She didn't want to go into a home, and she knew it was coming. She also knew she could trust me to hold that space as long as possible. I regret not being able to let go sooner, because I regret not having the time to ask different questions. Maybe I would have known her a little bit better, things that we just missed out on each other for. And that's okay, but I don't need to feel guilt. And it's amazing what happens to us when we place boundaries out there. Sometimes the guilt will come from the people we put the boundary with, and sometimes the shaming will come from other people that believe you should do something different. What's a good daughter look like? And so we don't live up to other people's expectations of us, which goes against the laws of co-creation, and they judge us. Another move against the laws of co-creation. And so when we're in this journey of healing, it's important for us to be gentle with ourselves, to have compassion. When we hold a boundary, it's about our values. And it doesn't mean that we don't love somebody. It simply means these are my values, and this is the space in which I'm going to hold it to. I am as valuable and worthy as everyone else out there in this world. And because of that, I'm allowed to take the space and time that I need to move through my healing, or now my grief, my sadness. The other emotions that have come up for me strongly in this last little while is grief and sadness. And not just grief and sadness about her being gone, but it's actually the grief and sadness that I feel towards that relationship. I feel grief and sadness that my mom was never able to really get to know me, and vice versa, that we missed out on this incredible opportunity for a relationship. There's grief because I had to lose hope. No longer do I have the hope that everything is going to sort itself out, that we'll have that big, heart-opening conversation. And I didn't realize I was still holding on to it. I didn't realize that I had still held out hope that my mom would one day apologize, as many of my family members have. I was still holding out hope that one day my mom would explain to me why. There was hope. And with her death, hope is gone. And it's an interesting journey for us to go through. And no one talks to us about this. They don't explain to us that it's not just the grief, the guilt, the regret about the end, or words said, words not said. It's also the grief, the sadness about hope, about where do we go from here as we move through all of these things. A lot of what I teach on is really about authenticity, to be our authentic self. And it's really difficult sometimes to be our authentic self with family. Our parents and our children are some of our biggest contracts, and our spouses are our partners. And they're our biggest contracts because it's where we can really dig in and learn who we are and how to hold the line, how to harmonize it, how to communicate it. Those are big relationships, and they're meant to be there for really important reason. They help us become resilient if we do them right. And when I say do them right, it's not that we can do them wrong. It's this that we need to keep on trying again and again and again. So when we're looking at what does that mean to be authentic, it means to be in alignment with our values. It means that instead of trying to cultivate attachments, which I worked on for years in that relationship with my mom, with my family, with exes, with friends. I was more concerned with attachments, with being accepted, which is part of survival, to be accepted into the tribe. So it's not surprising, but it's more important that we be authentic. And when I say that, it means to be in alignment with those values. So I encourage you to figure out your values. Your values will tell you who you are. None of them are bad. They just let us know, like, oh, that's what's important to me. And as time goes on, you might find that you have to fine tune your values, just like I had to when for years I thought one of my greatest values was freedom, and it turned out to be sovereignty. So take the time to look into them, to find them, to see what is there for you. When it comes to losing somebody, I really encourage you to take the time to journal. Even now, if you haven't lost somebody, but you have a big relationship that isn't easy, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a family member, maybe it's an old friend, to take the time now to journal what regrets or guilt am I carrying, or could I be carrying? So take the time to do those journaling prompts so that you can see where it is you need to do your healing work still. Often, one of the greatest places that you can work at is from your childhood. It might be from a parent or from a teacher or from some other caregiver in your early years. And even when we have great relationships with our parents or great relationships with some of our caregivers, there's still lessons and beliefs that we had that came down through them. Because if they didn't do all of their healing work, then they were perpetuating their beliefs, limited or not, onto us. So take a look at them. What are you ready to let go of? Or if you didn't let it go, do you think you could regret it later? And do the work around it. Ask yourself, what happened to them? That one question has brought me so much peace, has opened up my capacity to love at a completely different level than I ever knew was possible. And I want that for you. It's a much different question than what's wrong with you. What happened to you allows us to really dig in, to see the cause and the effect. I want you to take a look at your values and ask yourself, what boundaries can you place around them that will allow you really move towards peace? Just like guilt is the emotion that we feel when we're out of alignment with our boundaries, peace, calm, centered, grounded, those are emotions that we feel when we're in alignment with our boundaries or with our values. So what boundaries could you step into? Could you put there to support you as you move through this healing journey? And I say this to you because because I did the work, I was able to hold those boundaries, not because I was angry, but because I knew they were what was right for me. And so I don't have to regret any of my boundaries. I don't have to regret any of those choices that I made. My only regret was not setting those boundaries earlier and with compassion versus the defensiveness and anger, resentment. Once I moved through the healing portion and started moving or placing those boundaries with compassion, completely changed. I have no regret around that. I have no guilt around that. Now, as I step forward in the next couple of weeks and move through the last phases of the services and dealing with people, we'll see how we hold with those boundaries again. And it's interesting going through loss. People project on us all the time. And one of those projections that I deal with now is people not understanding my boundaries and my position, my relationship with my mom. I can't stop that from happening for you, but what I can do is inspire you, center, to harmonize within yourself so that when these big waves happen, we don't try to numb. We don't pour a drink, scroll social media. We're going to do some of it, but we don't get lost there. Instead, we allow ourselves to feel the feelings that are coming up, to look at them, to try to understand. Now I know that as I release my mom, that I got to really mean it when I said, I wish you peace. I don't want you to suffer anymore. And that's what I want for you. For you, I wish you peace. I wish for you to not suffer anymore, to slowly but surely let go, release the old hurts, the traumas, and the dramas, not forget your story. All those things helped you become the resilient, beautiful, bold person that you are today. I don't want you to forget those things. Don't change the story. Just let go of the emotional triggers so that when you're bringing those chapters of the story up, it's not done with resentment and anger, rage, fear. These are the things that put us into a state of dis-ease. And what I want for you is to live in a state of ease. Because just as hurt people, healed people or healing people inspire others to heal. Inspire yourself. Inspire all those around you to do this work. I promise you it's worth it. I am grateful every single day now for doing this work. On the hard days, on the extremely difficult days, there's many a times where I didn't want to do it anymore. There's times where I would take a spiritual nap, which is what I call having a couple drinks. But I'm glad that instead I just kept coming back to the work. And I really want that for you. Some of the books that I can recommend that really helped me get through this: The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, Loving What Is by Byron Katie, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer, What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey. Oh, and I still can't remember the psychiatrist's name, but he was amazing. Start there. There's more. Mel Robbins' new book, Let Them. Please note that I really love that book because of the second part of that, which is let me. Let them hurt. Let them behave the way they behave. Let me be responsible for how I react and how I behave. If you are ready to let go of guilt and reconnect with your authentic self, I'd love to invite you to join me for my Authentically You Bootcamp. It is free. It is February 12th to 14th, 2025, and I'll guide you through the process step by step. The link is in the description. See the light in you, and it is brilliant. Brightest of blessings. Until next time.